Good afternoon.
Hello, Trace.
Hi.
All right. We're going to call the meeting to order. Hello?
Getting feedback.
Hello, 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 hello.
Still that close.
Where?
The very bottom row, you have a microphone?
It might be Teresa's. Teresa, can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes.
Would you mind trying to mute it for a second?
Hi, what?
Here. This computer is plugged in and making noise. Causing the echo.
I mute the microphone, the PC microphone.
Yeah, my microphone's muted. I have no sound. I'm not muted.
Sounds kind of cool. Hey, we can go for the.
I'm glad you're doing it.
I can hear that. And stuff like that. Okay,
That allows the recording for the meeting. It's a computer.
I think it's bouncing off that computer right there. Maybe they're too close. Is that possible?
John, maybe if it's your volume.
Yeah, take care of it.
No, I got no mic. No mic, no speakers.
Yes, you can.
Sorry, guys, we're trying to get the microphone feedback turned off.
Does it pick up from anywhere else in the room?
No, just there. Press the Windows key, Alt and A. Does that make a difference?
Yeah, I'm unmuted now. I'm muted again. Hey, do me a favor, mute your computer. I'm not in the meeting. I'm on it.
And we're not plugged in.
No, my PC.
Can we sit there and try just getting you off and re-logging you back on? Let's see what happens when we pull.
Yeah, or we could just visualize.
Because we should be able, you should be able to switch over to Windows and show the board, right?
Do what?
So you can, from the camera from the TV, we can see that, correct? They can.
Yeah, I turned that off
Okay.
because he was gonna do some presentation and it was kind of in the way.
Oh.
Turn that back on. You
Right.
get up there, turn that on.
It seems to be off for now. I'll pull up that doc when we need it.
Yeah.
We got to it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to give suggestions, that's all.
Since you are.
Do you want that? You wanna see yourself up there? You can turn that
No,
on.
that's fine. I was just seeing if it was bouncing off of each other. Can you still hear us, Therese?
Yes, I can, and you're not echoing anymore. I turned my volume down.
Okay, all right, excellent, all
All
right.
right, thank you.
All right,
Thanks
call
for
the
being
meeting to
patient.
order again. After technical difficulties. Has the board had time to review the minutes of the previous meeting on February 18th? Minutes of February 18th. We have a motion, do we have a second?
Jeff, that's gonna have to be you.
Second. Okay, all right. We have a first and a second motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Any questions on the motion? Hearing those, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right. Next item on the agenda, new business, EUE receivership SOP and discussion.
Right. Thank you very much for, if you have to take a look at the document, if you didn't, that's totally fine, we're gonna talk it through here. Therese, can you see? I was wondering what the best way to do this, if it's gonna echo.
You should be able to share your document without.
It's able to send me the tonight.
I'm gonna try one more time.
Yes, I can see it now.
Okay.
All right.
How it's going to time.
Yeah, that's what these are for.
Okay, so. As we talked about last month.
Do you have any of them printed and pass out to these guys? Do you have any printed?
No,
Yeah, I don't even know what that is.
I can print more. Yeah, it's the one.
Let me go make another copy of this. That way Jeff has one too. Sorry, guys.
Let's do this and let's hit this old business because it'll be quick. Okay, old business, William Lee grant update. I did talk to Bill. Talked to Bill last week. Asked him if. It's on my list.
Yeah,
He looks confused.
I'm confused. We can sit there and take care of the financials real quick
Okay.
and then move on. We can sit there and move that down to old business, but let's take care of the financials real quick and follow the agenda.
Okay.
All right.
Make a motion to approve the final statement for February 28, 2025.
We have a motion and a second to approve the Innovia statements of 2028-25. Any questions on the motion? Here. All those approved, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Item B, Community Foundation Statement of 2/28 of 25.
Move to approve the financial statement for the foundation for 2/28/25.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none. Motion to approve signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Let's move on to the William Lee grant update. Josh.
Okay, talked to William Lee last week. If you recall, the context for this is that we turned down his application for, past costs, citing essentially that we were uncomfortable, recompensing for costs that were so far in the past. And we also did indicate to him that if there were costs going, he mentioned in that meeting that there were some costs yet to be incurred. And we opened the door for him to return to us and make an ask on improvements that may be emergency in nature that he didn't know about, that he could ask for money for after, that haven't been done yet. Talked to Bill last week. He was very pleasant to me on the phone and he said that any financing, he doesn't need any financing or any funds for that property anymore, and it's been taken care of. He also asked me about possibly other buildings to invest in or receivership. I don't know what to make of that and thanked him very much and said I would follow up with either receivership or we could follow up on different context for abandoned buildings. So that's seems to be the end of the bills conversation for right now. If something odd comes up or if there's a reason that he wants to work with this group, I'll let you know.
He's done, trying to go into business there.
He,
Did you gather that?
I didn't ask him. I just said, do you still need financial support? And he said, no. And then he asked about other property, or he asked about, I don't remember if he actually uses the word receivership. But he definitely asked about other properties, which is confusing given his situation. But Hopefully we'll find out more soon based on, his intentions to run the vet center and to be leasing space. But we don't know yet. And he's keeping it kind of close to the chest, so.
Is he zoned for event center? Is he properly zoned?
He'd be commercial over there, right?
I don't know. I don't know.
Right, right.
I don't know what that's, I don't know what bars are. I don't know what the zoning for. The commercial, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah,
That's something we can follow through with Eric.
yeah.
Official business district. Yes, that's true. Thanks.
Moving on to the Cove grant inquiry.
Yes. Contacted the Cove's aware, we had a pleasant conversation. And I just made her aware that at this point, we're not doing emergency grants, but it may be something that we look at moving forward, in an array of options that we're still considering. I told her I would reach out if it turned into something of emergency assistance, I'd reach out to her right away. So that's kind of the last sheet, just as a recall, they had $48,000 they were trying to come up with, but they were able to finance. And so, she asked for whatever we could, and we don't have a active grant program right now, so.
Alright.
Yeah.
And C,
So just a follow-up question. Alice, did you have any particular reason why you wanted to know in which zone?
What are you zoned?
Yeah.
No, just the general talk. I don't know. You would know better than I. What the zoning for? I mean, you could say I'm gonna have an event center, but are you zoned for an event center? I mean,
No.
just to say it, is there anything that he needs to do to become an event center? But I was on my own concern. And I will ask Eric, try the question. I'm sure he can answer it.
alright, Josh, your presentation.
Okay, so if you recall, last week, we, talked about the EUEA, receivership concept again, that you guys have all been working on for the better part of a year and a little more. And one of my tasks over the last month, and Ambrose and Drew have been, one of our tasks has been to try and quantify the tasks that would be involved in EUEA taking on receivership and specifically looking at staff costs and then how those could or might translate into real costs. Our goal with this exercise is, I would encourage you to look at this as a tool because the estimates will not be exact, and we could argue definitely over this hour or this hour or this hour. But my purpose for preparing this is to give some impression so I can walk you through the SOPs quickly and then also understand where the complications are gonna happen and then to have a little discussion around that. Does that make sense? Okay, so I am going to just start at the top. And I'm just gonna pop right through these just for the sake of time. But we can certainly, I'll stop at that purple line sheriff sale and we can, well, actually, stop me where you will, but I'm gonna pop through rather quickly. The first thing to frame this around, there are two major assumptions that you have to know straight up. One is that the economic development department in this situation continues to provide administrative support just as we are throughout the receivership process. Now that might seem obvious, but it matters a lot because it matters a lot in what I'll tell you a little bit down the line. But for now, economic development walks right along the same path we've been doing, even though we changed formats into potential receivership. Assumption number two EUA contracts legal, realtor, developer, and additional staff that the Economic Development Department can't provide. I'm gonna give an example. Trina. Works with homeowner rehab through the DBG grant program. She has great skills in rehab. Ambrose and I and Drew have not rehabbed buildings. At this point, with guidance from Mike, and as this proposal stands, we would be looking to contract all the services that economic development couldn't provide, or the city should not provide, given that we're an independent nonprofit now. And attempts to kind of ferry through what's appropriate for the city, what's not appropriate for the city, and leaving economic development as the exception. We continue to administrate, and then thus we try and figure out legal, realtor, developer, additional staff. What that means is, if you could reference your sheet, I have split this out between EUEA board and economic development hours. The reason that those are combined, as you can imagine, is that for our purposes, they're a lot of those hours are one and the same. Now, where I specifically left out EUEA, for instance, on line 2, city legal and building and code departments inform economic development staff there's a prospective property for receivership. EUEA would have no role. Economic development would have a role in that. So you'll see as we go along that we tried to be very deliberate about who's doing each task. When it says EUEA/economic development, though, it means you're relying on the administrative support of the economic development team, much as we do today and you have in the past, the last several years. So just starting at the top, and just as a guide for the sheet, EUA board economic development hours. Then I have a line for contract admin hours. This is realtor, developer, Trina, and their community development team. Anything that would come outside the scope of what us three can pull off. And then at the end, 2 rows over, I estimated the cost. And you can see very roughly at the bottom of the sheet, the hourly rates that I estimated. I said 100 for a realtor, 250 an hour for a legal, and $35 an hour for economic development services. We could debate those, and that'll vary a lot, but I'm just trying to ballpark those estimates. So the goal here,
$4,195 or something like that.
yeah. So our goal here is to understand the costs, understand the ramifications and some of the conflicts of interest that we need to talk about, and then come to some kind of consensus if this is the direction we want to head, or if we want to look for different options. So, first task.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is direction we want to head. We don't want to look at, I don't want to look at different options because we've been at this.
We get sensitive about the fact that.
So I don't want to say, is that Therese?
Yeah, what'd you say, Therese? Sorry, we couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry, my phone went off, sorry.
Oh, okay.
I mean, this is the option that we've talked about for a year.
Right.
Right. So to say what we don't, I don't look at that option because we spent too much time here and a lot of staff time, putting this together. So I wouldn't want, that's not an option. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right, Irv.
Anybody's here. This is what we've worked towards for a year. So to say we're looking at other options, no, that's not where we want to go.
Yeah, and I would say, and to sum all this up, it's good to have a base of what the estimated cost is, but at the end of the day, this is gonna be passed on to the developer anyways. We may incur this cost, but it's gonna be attached to whatever the developer is gonna pay for the receivership property.
It's true. I would say, just in Mike's absence, he is of the mind of looking at other options. Now, that doesn't say that you have to and so forth, I'd say that we prepared this in the context of really fleshing this out and then also starting to look at some other options. So I just want to be open, don't disagree. I
Yeah,
totally appreciate it.
And I want to be open too with that is in my mind, we spent too much time and effort, staff time, getting this far. And maybe part of the problem, through nobody's fault, as we've had 3, 4 different staff persons.
Correct.
You know, so our continuity as a board has been there. And like I said, through no faults of the own, there's been transition in the staff, and it's more like we're bringing the staff up to date on what we've done in the last 3 years and where we want to go.
Yeah, I think that's very fair too, Art, I do, because what happened at the last meeting on the request for the monetary amount that Mr. Lee was asking for, I was totally thrown off because from my understanding, we froze all of that stuff. We were moving in a totally different direction. And like I said, it was an awkward position for me. I was sort of trying to figure out what we were doing at that point. So I think that falls into exactly what you're saying is we're ready to move forward as soon as we get basically it goes through the tax, of a verification by the IRS on our switch over. We're ready to look at receivership property, start moving forward, figuring out where we're at to where, okay, what does it need on this property? So we hired DLC to come in and inspect it. I'm just using them as an example. What's wrong with the foundation? What does it need? And we sit there and put it in receivership, and then we put it out there as we've taken care of all that. Taking care of all that for you. Come to us, developer, you want the receivership, you want to sit there and develop this property, build this property, or give the owner the opportunity to get the property up to code. I think we're there, been patiently waiting, and I would agree, with that. The cost is going to be the cost. It's whatever it is. We understand that there's a commitment with the city to reimburse the city for certain things that comes outside of this, what we've agreed to. In essence, and I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong at any time. But myself, this is an estimated cost. It's nice to have this a breakdown over here on what we may be looking at. But we really don't know what this cost is going to be. It may be 3 hours here. It may be freaking 10 hours, depending on what the property is, and whatever that bill may look like. Even at the end of the day, we're still going to pass that on to the developer because the heart and spirit of this was to try to maintain or slowly but surely bring down the money that was available to this board. If we're not recapturing money, it's not about us trying to make $500,000, $1 million. It's trying to make $250,000 to sit there and bring developers in to fix up dilapidated buildings, preserve historic buildings, and that's been the mission the entire time. If I'm wrong, somebody please correct me here.
That's how it started out. That's what we want to do. We want to save downtown buildings and use this $250,000 as many times as we can. And if it makes money, it makes money. If we see it's not working, then.
Is there anybody, you guys know this and I don't, is there anybody else already doing this in the city government?
No, not the city government, no.
You mean
In the
receivership?
city, and is there are we, by doing that, redeveloping business, buildings, et cetera, is that something somebody else is doing? I don't even know.
Not governmentally, they're private investors doing it. And those are the guys that we want to attract to make it more attractive to them.
Yeah.
Hey, we got this building, some receivership, we got the basic water, sewer, stabilization. Can you work with us? So that's what the city's trying to do. And do it in the buildings downtown, basically is what Mike was talking about, to help save some of them for the historical value and for the fact that, it's part of our downtown.
We're in a unique position because of the way the board is set up in our partnership with economic development, where investor is looking at a building. We have more of, you've been put on notice for a year, 2 years to do X, Y, and Z to bring this building up to code. You have not. Now we're in a position to move forward and putting it into receivership, or put pressure on them to fix it or lose it, frankly, to put it simply.
Yeah, so I don't disagree with any of that. I would like to just take us through the steps here so that we understand And then we can discuss some contextual points here. The first thing that would need to happen is there would need to be a legal agreement with an EUA would need to contract with somebody in an independent legal to draft the agreement between EUEA and the city of Elkhart for administrative services beyond the economic development team. There would need to be some kind of agreement. So we have that as first step, which means you have this access to Trina, you have access to, well, let's just use Trina because that's the easiest example, community development within development services. Then we would inform, so then city and economic, city legal and building and code tell us there's prospective property. Obviously, no time for anybody but our team. If suitable, then we present to you at the next meeting, bringing context for receivership, specific deficiencies, and then the required actions by the OTA. That'll take us some time, and maybe a meeting or two. So I had a few. EUA decides they want to go forward with the request for receivership. So an hour. EUA engages a contractor development partner capable of managing the renovation. Now, there is the scenario where you guys decide we want to do 5 of these. And you contract with a developer up front and then and then you don't have to do it each time. There's a certain money for that. For this, I use it as a one-time occurrence, just for simplicity and because we don't know what we're doing yet on how this is going to go. Then we contract with an independent legal party again to draft the agreement between the developer and the EUA. EUA contracts with the independent legal party to craft a response to the RFQ. EUA submits response to RFQ. Now, okay, so I'm going to point out on these prior 2 points, we are the team developing, administering, managing, and making the final recommendations on a receivership project. And this is just something good to keep in mind because we have a conflict of interest issue to kind of work through. And maybe we can talk through it, maybe we can work through it. But as of now, the receivership process is Drew, me, and Ambrose's problem. And the help to get the staff time to get this part accomplished without you all getting a bunch of work time is Drew, Josh, and Ambrose helping the project go. And if that doesn't alarm you, I'll kind of color it in just a second. We signed a development agreement with the city. The receiver, Ambrose, could you just talk me through these next 3? Want to take over for those next 3? You've read those well in the past. Receiver forecloses.
I think, don't know if it is my eyes, but I can't read off any of this.
Oh, okay, no problem. So, receiver forecloses on the building, pays off taxes, utilities, and other due expenses.
Oh, yeah, so after having all the contracts, you contract the lawyer, contracted the developer, you've written the RFQ, you've written a response, you propose how you want to address the OTA issues. Then when you're selected as the receiver, and of course people recommend you to the court and you are signed, you sign a receivership agreement with the court, of course, committee, they're going to vote ABCD. And at that point, you go work with your developer, contractor, whatever you work with, renovate the building. After renovating the building, you compile all the costs, like you were mentioning, all the costs, and then put a lien on the building. Like you put in 65,000 of these renovations, and then hand over all the reports to court. Like this is how much we put in. Then court will put a lien on the building, and then put the building on the shelf sale. So on the shelf sale, it's open market. Anyone, anyone can compete to pay off the, and take the building. You can choose to compete with whoever is up there and recover the building, or you can just say, whoever takes it, just pay back our investment and go to another one that is available.
I don't think we want to own or maintain it for the next year, man. I don't think that's our end.
So yeah, so that is kind of the process. Looks like there is a consensus. I don't
Yeah.
want to go the other end. Just want to stabilize the building, and then a developer that he wants to convert into something else, take it from there. So yeah, is that what you asked?
Yeah,
So on the,
And so-
there was a real quick question. So in the receivership, who actually holds the document? Is it the association or is it the economic development that holds that receivership document?
the actual ownership you mean of the property?
Well, as far
of
as the receivership, yeah, for as far as the receivership.
The person that applies for the receivership as temporary ownership.
So,
So it'd be us.
so that would be
Yeah.
us. Okay, that's what I was trying to
So
clarify.
we would be on the hook.
I know we had the graph that went through everything, which
Yes,
was
yes.
fantastic.
Yes, at,
Yeah,
at
very
the at the point when you sign the contract, there is a temporary foreclosure. So you take ownership of the building as EUE, pay off all your taxes, any utilities, and all as you're renovating the building. Yes.
Perfect.
Sheriff's sale is important
Mhm.
because if this group, and it hadn't been taken off the table as of last meeting, and at least in our understanding, if the group wants to renovate it up to acceptable standards, then claim it on sheriff's sale, take it up to saleable property and flip it. You don't know if you're gonna win it on sheriff's sale. Now, Mike made a point, and I think it's a good one. If anybody bids on it, why are we bidding on it?
Right, agreed.
And my only counter to Mike was, if somebody bids $100 and we know they're a bad player, a bad partner, I might spend 110.
That's a good one. I wouldn't want somebody that I know doesn't take care of the property to get the building. So in that case, we would, but, and I'm thinking too, if a developer knows that we're doing this and they're kind of walking alongside of us as we do this, and we can pick out the bill together, you know, let's figure it out together. You walk alongside us and we'll bring it to the whatever standard is that makes it, you know, really profitable for them. And they see it and then they can purchase it from the sheriff's sale, or can they purchase it from us?
They purchased
From
it,
sheriff's sale.
yeah, from the court.
But they would know,
Yes.
you know, they would have some inside information and that's okay.
But they couldn't, there would be a, how should I say, there'd be a, you know, it's been a long day, but they couldn't just come in and buy it for $100 if we sat there and already spent $25,000 on it. There has to be, you know,
So they have to pay us back,
okay,
they have to make us whole, and then they could bid it out.
okay, all right. I like that. Well, like I said, it's all about retrieving the money and still having someone to control the
Yeah.
situation. That'd be great.
Yeah, and
And working with somebody that we believe in.
Yeah.
That believes in our downtown,
Correct.
you know, to work along with us.
So.
Well, Yeah, but you could get, whether that's our strategy or not, you still get yourself pickled. Because, well, we like this guy over that guy, and then you do it next 6 months later, and you still like this guy over that guy, you still like this guy. And this guy over here gonna go, hey, I don't know how that works. I mean, the city must be doing that kind of stuff, has to be making those decisions all the time.
I would say things are fair and equitable across the board. I would say so. I mean, we can't keep somebody from getting the property, but if you already have an interested investor, you'd be upfront with them right out of the gate is when this goes to a sheriff's sale, you know, we can't control what the bidding is that's gonna come in at. But we would love to continue to work with you, knowing that you're interested in the property compared to no one being interested in the property. We can't assume that there's gonna be multiple bidders. There may only be one bidder. You know, so at that point, I mean,
What
we
if there
have
isn't
to,
any?
what's that?
What if there isn't any?
If there isn't any, then at that point, we wait until we find one.
We can sell it ourselves. We own it, right? So we sell it
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yep.
We go in and try.
And we
Yeah,
can
it's in
find-
receivership.
And we can sell it ourselves, who's the we?
Yeah,
You, if we all
Well,
agree.
we gotta find a buyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if that's what I'm talking about, having a relationship with somebody, Dave Osborne, who loves downtown.
Mhm.
You love downtown. You know, that you know that this is coming for sale. We have brought it to market ready. And we'd like to work alongside you to develop it. Like you said, we can't guarantee you that you're gonna get it at a tax sale, you know? But we can let you know upfront that this building is available and it's gonna be a quality building and we will be working alongside you to help you develop it.
yeah, and there is also, if you get to know that there's this building available, you could run a fast RFQ process and call potential development, like who wants to work with us and develop this. And then one of the key things you do when you're evaluating the RFQ, be like, who is interested in buying the building at shelf sale? So we work with you knowing the building is safe, it's going to get into the right hands. So there could be ways of going around that.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're right, Jeff, is we want to make sure that we're encompassing as many developers that want to invest into the city and beautify it and save the historic buildings. So I think it's a valid question, very valid.
Because this guy, he's buying up, he bought the Truth Building. Bought the, what's this right here? 112 Club.
Go.
The Go-Go. Now see that Go-Go, and I kind of know the guy, one of the project managers, but that's the type of developer I'd like to get with. I mean, he's looking downtown to develop businesses.
Right.
So if we could work alongside somebody like that, that would help us.
So when we get to that sheriff's sale point,
That's an extra, job on part of this board. This board used to sit in, as far as I could tell, we sat in this, room and waited for people to come to us. And as I was kind of looking through this, in preparation, I'm thinking, wait a minute, that's a little bit different than, because now we're needing to engage and develop relationships and have that phone call and make that contact and develop those relationships. That at least me, I did. Now,
I would
You
hope the
guys-
Economic Development Board's got a list of investors, and that's what this spreadsheet of what the cost is.
part of my issue is I don't have any idea about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't do it.
Yeah, well, you do and you don't know you do it.
Exactly. I will
You
give
do and
it,
you don't know you do it. You're part of downtown.
Yeah.
And what you're doing is what we're trying to get other people to do.
correct.
Yeah, I get that part, and that's why I got on the board, but, I decided to give it a whirl because I have an interest in downtown and so anyway, I was trying to follow this and say, now, wait a minute, it's one thing to sit here in this room and have things come to you.
Mhm.
It's quite another to have to go out and make it, whatever that might be. I'm looking for things in this and thinking, well, okay, we're the ones that have to make that stride, take that step and make that happen. We didn't used to have to make much happen.
Well, we got Kirsten on, that sits on the board, Kristen does, we've got the economic development, each one of us has connections of some sort out there. I got a very strong connection with the Sutherland Foundation with the University of Notre Dame and Capital Investments Group, which is the Rands family. But the real thing is the request for proposal. All I'm doing at that point is handing that right off to a developer, right?
Yeah.
That's it. I'm not really selling anything. I'm just handing a document over.
Yeah, I guess I'm being careful to enter into things I don't have any
I mean,
expertise in.
we're a
And I'm on a
not-for-profit,
board,
dude. We
and
don't
I'm
follow,
responsible
do we
for
follow
making decisions.
under
I don't know what I'm
the
talking about.
the
I don't have
laws of you know, we have to knock on every single door out there and offer it to everybody. I mean, we're a non-for-profit. We're not trying to exclude anybody, but if we don't know you exist, we can't get in trouble for not offering it to you.
Yeah.
But what if we, again, you know, back to the previous conversation,
Yeah.
what if we do know this guy, we don't want to do business with him, and he's knocking on our door and continue, and maybe I'm being.
No, I
You
think-
guys work with this stuff all the time.
I believe
have
the
no
aspect of
idea.
favored nations every single day, you know, with what I deal with, and that's exactly the conversation we're having is we treat everybody fairly, and we can't keep them from going to the sheriff's sale and bidding, correct? We can't, you know, in essence, but, you know.
When they get it, then
If they get it, then at that point, they own the building and they better maintain the building and keep the building going and keep with the agreement or what's needed with the city. You know, at that point, you know, I think it'd be detrimental to them to go into a different direction, to let it go dilapidated after we've sat there. Then at that point, I mean, it's hard to keep anybody out of an auction when you know that, you know, they're basically at an auction. Open to the public, you can bid, go ahead and bid. I think we'd have to be careful.
part of my question.
Those are good
Yeah,
questions.
it's a great question.
Good
It's a
question.
great question. It really is.
So those things are definitely, just to piggyback on one of your points, if you see something, for example, EUEA engages the contractor development partner, EUEA contracts the agreement between the partners. That's no help from economic development. Because we can't, because we wrote that RFQ, like we literally are administering the process. So that's where we have to be really careful not to get involved in parts. We're walking a very fine line. Because,
I mean, you could write the RFQ and you could set up a matrix for us to pick. So you'd have to write the RFQ, give us the matrix. What we do is we give different points for different stuff to different ones, and the one with the highest points, and we all agree, that's, you know, that's where we want to go. So you wouldn't have to, yeah, I guess your responsibility you wouldn't want to write the RFP and then decide to miss the RFP. You don't want to do that. You're absolutely right.
and the problem is, what that describes is EUA getting priority over over other developers.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Right.
The city started the EUEA. We didn't just come here and say, hey, this is what we want to do. The city started it. We're continuing it. So
Yeah.
we would hope that the city would just walk alongside of us.
Right.
That's my logic behind it. It's not like we came out of the blue with this great idea and now we want the city to do this. No, we were part of the city. And now we're not.
Yeah.
We're still, you know, we still are.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
hypothetically. Yeah. So, yeah.
So the challenge, okay, so let me just finish the sheet, just for, just so we can call it. The rest is what you do to tickets. So last week we talked about, or last month we talked about the possibility of taking it to sale. There's some more contract admin, you gotta hire a realtor, you gotta hire closing costs and fees and all those things that are built in. You're gonna be at that 6,000 to 7,000, and this is all really rough estimates, but you can for sure say you're gonna add $4,000 to your upfront costs of receivership before you get to the sheriff's sale, which I think is the general momentum of what I'm hearing in the conversation and what we would think is fun.
Okay.
Okay, so a couple things. We need to talk through, due to the mingling, so we're mingling city staff
Mhm.
and a private nonprofit's business. Because what we're doing is stepping in at certain points, backing out at certain points, stepping back in at certain points, like, contracting with legal parties. We're gonna step away because we have nothing to do with that, but then we're gonna come back on to help you guys figure out the development agreement and foreclose on the building, right?
Then we reimburse you the fees that are structured in this document.
No, only because Wait, sorry. You wouldn't reimburse the economic development team, but you would reimburse the contract legal to help you.
Well, we're paying somebody for their services.
Pay somebody, yeah.
Reimbursement, probably not the right word, but we're paying your expenditures and you have a fee that you're charging.
So here's an interesting question, just picking up on what you said. You can't pay the city. As of now, the way this is set up, EUEA would contract with, for instance, Trina, the Community Development Program. And that is a question on the table between Mike and JPRC as we speak.
Because I don't believe we can do that. Because between 8 and 5, she's a city employee. So I can't contract her out for 2 hours. I don't even know how that would work. I don't even know if state board of accounts would allow that. So that's something that the controller legal will have to work through. But I think the devil's in the detail.
Well, I think ours, correct me if I'm wrong, sir, but why don't we just pick a property, use it as a pilot program and let's work through this. We can sit here and talk and try to figure out all the scenarios in the world, but until we sit there and go, ooh, here's the property, whoops, we screwed this up, we gotta get this figured out. Or this is
As soon as
perfect.
you got everything figured out, you're absolutely right. As soon as you got everything figured out, you go, oh, no, wait a minute.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's like working on a car. I'm a mechanic kind of guy. It's like, you gotta get in there and figure it out, man. You're not gonna be able to look it up on
There's a lot
YouTube all the
A
time.
lot of truth to that. What we've been doing, if I understand it, and maybe I'm edifying myself at this point. Because we kicked this can down the road, like Carter said, for a year. And a lot of it, I'm just, I don't know what an RF is.
Request for
Request for.
I'm sorry, yeah.
I don't know what.
Stop talking acronyms. I know.
Yeah.
I'm
Standard
sorry.
operating
I was
procedure.
insurance, I didn't know insurance started around that. But
Sorry.
it's like, the thing that I kind of wonder, I get what you're saying, because that's exactly what will happen. You won't have the stock thing, it's owned by so and so, or it's just outside the city, or it's whatever. My question is that maybe there is an alternative to all of this, and I don't know if you're ready to talk about that. If we're done with this, you're done with your part presenting this whole, how it's gonna work and the things, and I appreciate this, because what you are doing is bringing up, well, this is what we're hearing about, this is what we're hearing about, this is the kind of work you're gonna start doing on the board, et cetera, et cetera. What I kind of wonder is, we gave $20,000 to the Elkhart Community Foundation. Why couldn't we give the whole thing to the Elkhart Community Foundation and designate it as, I believe that donors can do that with funds that they donate to the Elkhart Community Foundation. You can say it's for certain things. Couldn't you say it's for downtown Elkhart? And we'll take grants, or we'll take applications and so forth, and let them, the professionals, handle all that kind of thing. And we can still get together once a month, or once every other month, whatever it takes, to just know hey, this is what's going on with the funds. Is this being properly directed? Is this the kind of we really want to do? Maybe we at first run alongside them and say, well, this is what we have in mind. This is the grant they have, or this is the request that they have. We can kind of guide them and say, hey, maybe we're the advisory group for it. I don't know how those things work either.
Well, I would say to that is that was a discussion that we had many meetings ago. Do we just sit
Or
there?
me.
I believe it was before you got here. It's how we got to where we are today is we had two folds. The state stopped the actual financing of this board. So we had this amount of money in there. So we made a decision, and we vented out both sides, okay, we can sit there and continue forward with what we're doing until the money is exhausted out, or we can try to figure out a way in what is in the best interest of the community itself. And that's where we came up with this idea of where we're at right now. So that's how this has happened. It's taken a long time because of the changeover from the 501 aspect of it, figuring out which Mike and his team has done a fantastic job of getting ideas on what we can do. We talked about partnering with another historical society, seeing what that would look like. Some of these other things we can't do until we actually get our status approved by the IRS. At least that's my understanding. So our hope is to be able to sit there and keep this $250,000 alive and keep sitting there helping attract things and get things out there for individuals to want to invest in some of these buildings and save some of these historical buildings to keep things going forward. And I think that was, what the city really wanted us to do is to keep moving forward and keep this board alive and doing certain things instead of just frankly cutting the checks and until it was exhausted and just do scholarships. I think that was the spirit.
And we did go to foundation. They don't, just what you talked about, just let them, they don't do that.
Oh, they don't.
No, they don't do that. You can barely make some money, but they don't do a program like, we talked about doing. Yeah, they don't do that. I mean, they have our money now. How much do they have?
About 200, I think.
We have $200,000 that's in the foundation. But it's
Yeah, it's 240.
$240,000 in the foundation. That's our money we put there because we get a better interest rate.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got a better interest rate. But we talked about doing that. They don't do that. We could, and basically they have our money and we're advising them how we want to spend it. So our money is with them, but they're not gonna dedicate staff for $240,000. I mean, it's a lot of money, but they're almost $500 million organization.
Yeah, okay, I didn't.
We had talked about that. That was the initial thing. We said, oh, let's give it to the foundation. Okay, but they're not gonna administer. If they do, they're gonna charge you. They're gonna charge you for that.
And we could have continued the grant programs, the emergency programs, but at the rate it was going, within 3 to 6 months, this would have just dissolved.
And
There's a lot of man
since
hours
I've
from
been on this,
Drew, Ambrose,
Yeah.
and Josh that's been invested to get us to this point.
and since I've been on the board, we've done scholarships.
Yep.
They've done awnings at one time where everybody could get an awning. We did
Did the museum,
museum.
you
And we
know,
were doing COVID.
beautification request, shortfalls on things that need to be done. Yeah, no, you're right, Drew. I mean, I take pride in, what we've done here, from what it was before, and I've been here a very long time, there was many years there that frankly, we didn't do anything, nothing.
Just had money coming in.
It's just money coming in. We weren't doing nothing.
Mhm.
And then there was a change. Then, Tim came in and he was a breath of fresh air, and we've been carrying that torch. And it's unfortunately, you couldn't, be part of the board anymore, to keep it going.
So good.
So I have a couple of challenging questions that I'd like to hear the group's response to. Say we're interested in a property, right? Downtown, whatever, on the street somewhere. We want to bid on it. The UEA, the court comes to UEA, says, hey, this building would be good for receivership. We are interested in the building, and so is GoGo Real Estate.
Mhm.
Are we seriously competing with GoGo Real Estate in that
Nope.
scenario?
Nope. If GoGo says, it's like, how can we help you, GoGo? How can we help you? If you want a person, we want to walk right alongside you and help you where we can restore. No, we're not going to compete.
And from my understanding, the city itself is what initially puts it into receivership in the first place, correct? Who actually puts it in receivership?
The city has the city at the OTA hearing, the city hears a list of like 12 to 15 properties that will get a demolition order. They'll come out of that meeting with a demo order,
Okay.
pretty much, period.
Yep.
And then Tim Vestine and legal and the legal department select properties that they think would be good for EUA receivership that aren't gonna be taken care of.
Okay.
Is the best way I can describe it. If either of you have anything additional. So
my question is how would we bid against GoGo if we're the ones that are gonna be in receivership through the city? So we're the ones in their control of that. Am I missing a step here?
Yeah.
You have to be on them at the sheriff's sale. Receivership, we would have. Now, we wouldn't.
Okay.
We wouldn't. And if we knew if we knew that they wanted it, we wouldn't be bidding this. I mean, Go is somebody that I want to introduce this program to. Be a pilot, like, let's try it one time,
Yeah.
work all the kinks out of it, because at one time, we're gonna do this building election.
Yeah.
On the election ticket.
Exactly.
We had talked about, okay, I think Miranda Tree's in there now. They put their store there. But let's take something like that and try it and work it out and see, okay, this didn't work this time, this didn't work, this did work. And see where we go. It doesn't have to be I wouldn't say a massive project. You know, I don't wanna, maybe $25,000-$30,000. I don't wanna put all 240 in one basket. You know, I don't wanna do that, but I wanna try, and I don't know, well, I know that they're opening the 112 club. They're gonna open it back up. So I don't know what that's like, but that's a big project. Thinking, I don't know, become smaller. And that's not a receivership either. That's just, I'm just talking off the top of my head as a developer who wants to develop on the downtown building. So I think we could find a small one.
Yeah.
Let's go after it.
The one thing is clear. You don't want to compete with developers. You want a property where developers are not interested, but if you stabilize it and move it some level, they will get interest. Those are the kinds of properties you're looking for, right?
Exactly. That's what I thought we were doing in the first place with what you just said.
Yes.
So if we put out a receivership call and we have 5 parties, EUA doesn't want to be involved. We have 4 other parties per se in that scenario. Just making sure.
Do we want to be involved? We want to help. If
We want to help if the situation is bad.
Yes,
but-
and if we want to help as long as we can recoup what we're helping with.
So this is almost like call me crazy, but it's almost like a tax lien seizure. You're out bidding against other individuals because they're behind on their taxes. This one here is just their violation of codes of an unstable building. Is that pretty accurate in simple terms?
Yes.
So even if we'd have to sit there and look, now I'm starting to understand what you're saying. I get what you're saying now, Jeff. So now we're sitting there, the city puts it in receivership, now it goes to sheriff's sale, and we're going there to bid. How much do we want to get in there before a guy says, nope, I'm out, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. So now we got 4,000 of it in receivership. We sit there and we go to DLZ or whatever, find out what it takes to get it up to code. Now we got everything put together, and then we go sit there and start getting with the developers that may be interested in investing in the properties. So now I didn't quite understand the steps as much as I needed to. I apologize for that, but I understand it now.
No, that's fine. That's our job to lay out some of these questions. So I think again, just reiterate what Ambrose said, we're not in the business of competing with other receivers in the city.
You're just setting it up for whatever receiver wants to come in and receive it.
Whatever developer would want to come and receive it after the sheriff's sale process.
Right.
But you would want to be, okay. Okay, there's a question here around.
Before you go,
Yeah.
can I ask Therese, Therese, you still there?
Oh, yes.
Did you have anything? I know we acting like you're not around.
I know she's on, look for her to chime in.
Do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah. I think we need to figure out, really what we want to do. What's our level of security and understanding and, grasping and then taking a hold of the project and running with it. I mean, is that what we want to do?
I think it's what we want to attempt to do.
Yeah.
That's what we want to attempt to do. A small project.
Right.
I think what's the worst that could happen here, if I may say, is we make a leap of faith. It's one thing I sit there and say about Steve Harvey all the time, that he makes his little speeches at the end of Family Feud, is sometimes you got to take a leap of faith. You got to jump off that cliff and hope to God somebody hands you a parachute sometimes. What's worse that we're going to be out of $30,000 if this goes south, and then we know that it's not going to be successful and we can't do it.
And then how liable are we for that?
That's what I wanna know, yeah.
So what would that liability look like? Getting it into the weeds of it here. What was that liability look at? So now we got this building, we got it in receivership, we won it, and now it still falls upon us to find a developer that wants to
Now it
develop
burns
it, have
down.
that walk.
Now it
Because
burns
once it's
down, we own
receivership's
it.
in ours, we could sit there and solicit denying
Collect
whatever we
insurance
want,
money.
right?
Now it burns down, we own it, we gotta clean it up.
Insurance.
Collect the insurance money.
Yeah.
Gotta insure it.
Yeah.
Can't buy a building without insuring it.
Okay, I'm gonna throw
I
another.
mean, that's in here too.
Let me throw another.
Well, it's not that easy to insure a building like that.
Especially an empty one.
Pardon?
Especially an empty one.
Yeah, oh, yeah. No, that's, I know
Oh,
that
it's gotta be
part.
taken.
So are we?
I'm sure it hadn't changed in 10 years, but gone.
So do we have consensus that the only way we're gonna get EUA becomes a receiver as a last resort? As in, nobody shows up at the table and we call you and say, hey, we have a receivership program, we go forward with this one.
I think given time, we're smart enough to look at the place, not.
Yeah, I think,
make a
once again,
decision.
I think we're trying to box ourselves in without knowing what it looks like. I think we've had.
Exactly.
We've had 2 addresses pointed out to us. We haven't went out there as a board to review those addresses. Nobody has said that's being moved forward into receivership for us to even evaluate the situation. I think the point that I like what you made it earlier, Arvis, is we need to do something. We keep talking, we keep doing the hamster wheel here. Let's go take a look. Let's pick out a couple properties. Let's go take a look at it, see what the liability is. We have somebody that's part of this board that can go out there and go, oh my gosh, Therese, no way,
Right.
no way. And what does that look like? Are we, before it goes into receivership, now you got the current owner has the property, that owns the property. Are we gonna be able to look in the basement? Do we wanna look in the basement? But I think we gotta pull the trigger and at least get a couple of these properties in receivership and see where it goes. Worst thing that's gonna happen is the owner has to bring it up to code. I think that's what everybody wants anyways.
My only concern about that is we're still, as Arvis pointed out earlier, we're still using these city employees who are sitting here turning up hours, working with this.
Mhm.
And how long would it take for this first example to come along? And then if it does, we still got a whole lot of learning going on. The learning curve concerns me. And it should concern just me as a taxpayer. I thought about that. I talked to Lori and said, my God, their city's got these guys. They know what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. It's a good thing they're there but we're using their time. I don't know how that works.
Well, until we're actually moved over to the actual what we're trying to become, we're still existent, right? We have the bylaws.
So,
But it seems
So
like one
we're-
of those hamster wheels that just
Right.
won't stop.
Right.
And
As far as-
that's my caveat about what you're saying. Yeah, normally I get that, but how much longer is this gonna go in this limbo? Waiting for the right opportunity for us to begin
Mhm.
the learning curve.
Well,
Mhm.
I mean, is there a piece of commercial property sitting there that may be a potential candidate? That's a smaller building, like what he says? Are we looking at, a residential, building? It's, our facility, I think we should be, looking for what is, available in most within the city limits downtown area first, to make that priority. I'm just throwing out ideas.
so I'll ask a public perception issue, because this is significant.
Mhm.
Say we bid on a property, we get receivership on a property. And Ambrose and Drew and I are working on it, yada, yada, getting the details, everything's in process. Go Real Estate says, hey, why is Ambrose? And we say, well, the city assists EUEA, in getting an administrative tax.
But doesn't this take care of that because we're reimbursing the city? Or not reimbursing, but paying the city for its services? Isn't that what this is?
It would be except economic development. as it stands, is continuing the exact same posture that we've had. Uh,
Yeah, that's the elephant in the room.
That-
Obviously,
And
that's
I know,
the-
but for me, that's not elephant.
Yeah, me neither.
You know, for me, it's not elephant. I know that perception is there. But again, as I want to go back to the fact that the city, and we probably need a new name too, but the city created this board. We did not just come up with the idea, the city created. Now, for the city to,
Under a state statute. but-
yes, yeah, for the city to cut us off the limb, you know, we got $250,000, you know, you want to work with us. We want to work together downtown. That's my sell to anybody in the public. You know, if Go-Go Realty, you know, we're gonna help you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. We're not making any money. We're trying to roll over this 250,
Yep.
make the downtown better, make the city better, make the quality of life, quality of place. That's what it's all about. It's not as if we're putting any money in our pocket. You a volunteer, I'm a volunteer, Teresa a volunteer. They come to here once a month and more often to do this. So nobody's benefiting except the people of Elkhart, and that's what we're about.
Absolutely. And if GoGo wants to sit there and bid on this when it goes into receivership, God bless them. That's the whole idea, is to get it out of the person's hands that's not doing crap with it, with the property.
And you got a short staff right
Well, There will be when he takes
It's
off.
getting worse.
we're about to.
there. Yeah, so we have to take that into consideration.
Yeah.
And
So, all right, back to the Elkhart Community Foundation. What if we I do believe that the alternative would be to just give the money to the Elkhart Community Foundation, wouldn't it? Would that be an alternative?
It's
or no?
taxpayer dollars.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's still taxpayer dollars that came into this organization.
and what are we giving it to? You know, why are we giving it to?
So we've got to spend the money out somehow.
We don't.
We've had to spend this money since.
This is where I'm getting, what I'm trying to understand myself is we can't just write a check and put it somewhere.
Yeah, we could.
You could, if as long as they were consistent with the mission of the UEA, something
Yes.
like along the lines of like historical renovation or economic development for
We could.
attending properties.
But then all the money would be, who were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, or entrepreneurial support organizations, that has always been a focus of EUEA.
Yeah.
Small business, encouraging that kind of investment. in the community.
Yeah, I mean,
just
we
to
can
add-
spin it out and just dissolve. I mean,
Just
that's
add-
easy.
The whole point.
No,
is-
it really is.
It's
We-
easy in the short term. If you just want to spend out the money and close the chapter, that's so easy.
Yeah.
Because you can publish. all of- Yeah.
Scholarships, you know.
But the question is, how can we do this on
Facade,
a consistent
projects.
basis for a longer time? We churn in money, like we do a revolving kind of thing, like we spend, then recover, spend and recover, so that we scale the impact, not just spend the money and then close the chapter. So that's the big question we are trying to answer.
And I think that was what we, a year ago, started out doing.
Correct.
You know, to get us to this point. So we're not spinning the wheel, you know, and to your point, it's like, we've done so many things that have worked and have not worked. We did the thing with a goodwill.
Yeah, so.
So we've done things that haven't worked.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I'm starting. If we had another $30,000, you know, and find something that, you know, works and is worth it, you know, and we can continue to replenish that, I think it's worth the effort. Back to your staff issue, that we need to be cognizant of, you know, and it might require some legwork on our part, like you talked about, Therese, who's had the expertise in what we're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, and, yeah, so, yes. But yeah, that's, if for me, it's just like, let's find the building.
Mhm.
Let's try it. You know, cause I think that, and I go back to initially, it was the 112, like,
Yeah.
that's the initial building. I thought, okay, we're gonna move forward with that. We're gonna do that. And we did, and we developed a plan. So we could do that. I don't know, do they have anything that's in receivership now? You know, so I think if you could send us the list, and we could ask Therese to kind of go by, eyeball them,
Yes,
and come back at our next meeting, you eyeball, and hopefully the ones downtown or in the downtown area. And you can come back and she could eyeball them and say, okay, this might be one we want to start with, and let's start.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly.
And I got 30 years of construction experience. I mean,
See how much of your time we use, your time, and if we use it more of your time, then we can even engage in focus. You know, because we have funds where we could hire somebody, and then focus is a group of Notre Dame scholars who do different projects. So if need be, we can do that.
I was happy with what they did for us.
Yeah,
last time.
I'm happy to work it for us. So yes, but I'm thinking if we could just get those to us, those receivership addresses. And Teresa, if you would,
Yes,
eyeball some of them, you know, tell us
most
what you,
certainly.
tell us what you think, and then the next meeting, we kind of have a conversation about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll commit to that.
I like it.
And if we want it, are we bidding against other developers on it?
Well,
I need to understand the answer to that.
Well, the question is, are we bidding? Let's say we're not. Let's say we're not. So what does that look like? If we are bidding against other developers, it depends on she's gonna have the knowledge of going in and going, okay, just from looking at it from the street, eyeballing the roof, looking at, what she sees on the exterior, she's not gonna be able to go into the interior, but she's gonna, with her expertise and all her years in the industry, she can sit there and say, ballpark, I think that property is $40,000. I think that's what it is. And from what I see from the roadside, I think it needs a new roof. It appears from the roadside, if there's no vegetation growing on the long side of it, solid foundation or not, then at that point, we could sit there and commit and say, well, yeah, we bid against it. We bid for it, but there's no guarantee that we would win that bid. That's what I think you've been talking about and you've been talking about, is we have a list of what you have in receivership. You put it out there for public bid, we're bidding for that property, or we're not bidding for that property, depending on what we think that value is gonna be. We may bid on that property. We may bid $40,000, but there's somebody out there that says, I've got $70,000. I want that place no matter what. At that point, we have to make a decision as a board on how far we want to go for that property. That's where that list of properties comes from, and she tells us what she thinks. Just my opinion.
It still puts you in a position bidding against free market developer.
But my
that-
question was,
that wants that receivership.
but my question for you is there's no scenario where we automatically get the property. We have to bid, period, right?
You have to respond to the RFQ. There's no money there. You have to respond to an RFQ or an RFP.
Okay, request for a proposal. Okay, so we have to respond to that. And that's part of the bid?
What if you win? What if you beat GoGo?
Okay, well, if we beat GoGo.
Okay, then you've had a city, sorry, I'm just spitting this out. If you beat GoGo, say you score 2 points higher on the RFQ, RFP project.
Yeah.
A nonprofit group, assisted by the city's economic development staff and possibly more on contract basis. I still don't know the answer to that. I'm also dubious that's allowed. Has just taken receivership instead of GoGo real estate.
But
And
they lost the bid though, right? What am I missing?
They scored less on the RFQ or RFP. We beat them. We beat them with our RFQ, RFP.
But aren't we using outside counsel for that? For the request for proposal? Who's putting together the proposal? Us, the economic development, or the outside?
In response to the RFQ, RFP?
Yeah.
Outside.
Okay,
counsel.
so at that point, you're insulated, right? I would assume so, because you're saying GoGo is 2 points higher. We hired an outside consultant firm or whatever to put the request for proposal in. I'm not anti-acronym guy as much as possible, so they sat there, we scored 2 points higher. I don't see no conflict of interest there, do you? I don't see where there's any issues there.
You didn't write the proposal, you didn't score it.
You get to score it, so you score it fairly, obviously, across the board. If they score higher, fantastic.
And
If we score higher, okay, we've got the property.
do we have downtown developers that we have a list of downtown developers, not the big developers, I mean, the small guys.
We got about 5 on the receiver list right now.
Yeah, and those are the guys that we need to sit down here and have a conversation with.
Yep.
This is the program that we got going, that UEA got going. We want to help develop downtown developers. We have a receivership program, but we also, knowing that we will work alongside you.
Might be interesting,
To see,
it might be interesting to get those guys together and find out, you might find out from them you know what would be good, like we did an awning program, or we did you might hear from them, well, this is the kind of thing that really needs to begin to happen downtown.
Well, no, this is, they're making an investment. I mean,
Yeah,
we're investing with them. We're not investing for them. We're gonna be partners.
yeah, we can't go backwards. We can't go back to, doing facades and doing, our fascias, front, beautification and, the umbrellas and stuff like that is either we sit there and we sit there and try to walk the middle of the road the best we can, but it's either take the money, invest it, everybody walk away, or we try to figure out what is best for our community here. That's what we're trying to do is keep this alive to where this money keeps evolving in and we can continue to venture out with, if we lose a little bit of money, fine. If we make a little bit of money, fine. If we break even, perfect. Like ours said earlier, we're not trying to, create a board that's gonna be sitting on $1.5 million. That'd be fantastic. Great. At that point, we may want to sit there as a non-for-profit and open up to other grant systems, man. But it's non-for-profit. It's all about the community.
And could we work alongside those developers with this receivership program?
That's a great idea.
Could we work
Just sit
alongside?
down and meet up with them.
Why would they want that, the developers?
What?
Because here's the thing, contract signing, lease stores, blah, 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 working with UA, coming to some meetings. I'd go. Do it myself.
Oh, no,
If I'm in
no,
that property, I'd do it
I'm
myself.
talking about, GoGo is not a small town developer. I'm talking small town. You, me, Haas, Dave Osborne,
Jeff Stein.
Jeff, yes, Schemenauer. That's what I'm talking. I'm not talking, GoGo is, bigger than a lot of people. So I'm not talking about major realtors. I'm talking about the little guys that Schemenauer, who people own these buildings, Beecher. Yeah. That's what I'm speaking of. When I say developer, that's what I'm thinking of. I'm not thinking of.
You want to find people that are interested in the property itself. They've been eyeballing it. And finally, over all these years, it's like, really, the city has pulled the trigger on these, violations and it's not up to code. And we have the opportunity to maybe bid on these properties. Well, glad the city has moved forward and is trying to sit there and get rid of these dilapidated properties. How's that negative in any way? Like I said, is how this plays out is how it plays out. We have to do the pilot program first to figure out the kinks out of this. We just do.
That was in the detail. And you hear this all the time. I wasn't born in Elkhart, but Elkhart is talk about how we lose old buildings, how they lost, it was the Orpheum and a bunch of other old buildings, how they've lost them. And so right now, the era is for restoration. Everybody wants to live downtown. Everybody likes that downtown, living above the store kind of action. So, and restaurants, I mean, we can do commercial. It doesn't have to be, residential, just somebody that wants to get in there and work. And I think had we worked with Bill's Barbecue on the front end, exposed and that would have been a project that we could have helped with, on the front end, but not on the back.
Yeah, I agree.
Because our mission is to save structures.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, I want to be cognizant of time. What I'm hearing is we're interested in receivership, being in receivership pool. Again, like with all the other developers, we are not necessarily concerned about the conflict of interest element here, or we're cognizant of it.
I don't think there is
It's not
one at this point.
I would caution you heavily on that, but
But then the point is, myself, I would like to make a motion for adjournment.
Okay, but I do want to say, we want receiverships, properties come back next week and send to us so Therese can.
Absolutely.
so
We want to continue this discussion at the next meeting, is what I'm trying to say, Josh.
I agree. So move.
Don't move.
All in favor?
We have a second?
Yep.
Yes. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
City council meeting tonight. So when's your last day, Ambrose?
April 24.
April the 4th.